New York Democrats have successfully thrown out the current congressional map in the state in favor of potentially what could be a better map for them going forward. Now that the state Court of Appeals has essentially said that the New York map is unconstitutional and needs to be redrawn. The current map was drawn by a special master. This is the current map, of course. And last year, it gave Republicans significant gains as they were able to flip 4 seats from blue to red. Of course, Democrats couldn't allow something like that and, of course, went to the Court of Appeals and got this map struck down. Now, originally, the Court of Appeals actually was the body that appointed a special master to draw these maps. Of course, since then, Kathy Hochul has had an appointment on the State Court of Appeals, which essentially turned a 4-3 ruling in the Republicans' favor into a 4-3 ruling in the Democrats' favor. So we're going to talk about what this means for the House of Representatives going into 2024, because this potentially makes it much more difficult for Republicans to retain control of the House, as if it wasn't already difficult enough. Now that there's going to be a new congressional map in New York, there's probably going to be at least 2, 3, 4, as much as 6 seats that could potentially change hands because of a gerrymandered map in New York State. So we're going to talk about all these things in just a second, but first, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing down below and liking this video if you enjoy. So this comes after Democrats had a really abysmal showing in New York back in 2022. Kathy Hochul was only able to beat Lee Zeldin by single digits, and this had down ballot coattails, lifting up Republicans down the ballot in the House. Again, Republicans were able to flip 4 seats from blue to red in 2022, and this gave Republicans control of the House of Representatives. Lee Zeldin and the Republicans in California essentially are the reason that Republicans retain control of the House, because had that not happened, Democrats would have had a trifecta in the federal government. Now, Democrats have since then been trying to find a way to change the congressional maps in New York to favor their side, since obviously this was a really poor showing, because their failure to pass the Hochulmander, or the gerrymander that Kathy Hochul tried to tout and the Democrats tried to put forward, essentially cost their party the House of Representatives. So, of course, they're trying to play their cards right this time around. They've gotten the current map scrapped, and of course, it now goes to the quote-unquote independent commission. Now, in New York, redistricting is done, or is supposed to be done, by an independent commission. This, of course, was voted by New York voters by a large margin back in 2014, and essentially it encompasses an equal amount of Republicans and Democrats who are supposed to agree on a congressional map for the state of New York. That's how the previous New York congressional map was drawn up. Now, to be fair, the partisanship of the state legislature in New York was different when this map was put forward after the independent commission. But Democrats are doing everything in their power to influence these maps and get the independent commission maps rejected. Now, essentially, the independent commission has 2 tries to put forth a congressional map to the state legislature. After that, the state legislature assumes control of gerrymandering. So, of course, when you have an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, unless you have one of the members of the body give in to the other side's demands considerably, no map is going to get passed. So this system is essentially designed to fail, which it did the last time around, which is why New York almost had the infamous Hochulmander. Now, it was only because the Republicans challenged this map all the way to the Court of Appeals that it eventually got struck down. But now that Kathy Hochul has appointed another justice to the Court of Appeals, it's very unlikely that they're going to side with the Republicans this time around, because the ruling last time was 4-3 in favor of the Republicans suing the state. Now, of course, that ruling is probably going to be 4-3 against, now that you have Caitlin Halligan on the State Court of Appeals appointed by Kathy Hochul. She's naturally not going to rule against Kathy Hochul and the Democrats, and that's exactly what the point of that was. Now, one of the reasons for that even happening in the first place was because New York has mandatory retirement ages. That justice who previously occupied that seat had to retire, and Kathy Hochul got to fill the replacement. So, of course, had Lee Zeldin won the gubernatorial race last year, the outcome would have been very different. You would have seen a much more independent-minded judge on the State Court of Appeals. So going forward, Republicans now risk losing a multitude of seats. If we take up the Hochulmander, for instance, the 1st congressional district, which in the current map is R+5, becomes D+6. And again, this is relative to the nation, so this actually makes this district a lot more Democrat than just a D+6 margin. Basically, all the Republican support in Long Island is concentrated in the South Shore. Of course, that basically packs all those voters together. This would have made an R+20 district, which would have been a Trump double-digit district. Of course, in the current map, the South Shore is more fairly represented. It is an R+6. You have the 4th Congressional District, that is D+10. That actually gets slightly redder under the Hochelander, D+8, which could potentially be the only good sign for Republicans in the fact that Anthony D'Esposito has a slightly easier district. But again, it's still a district that voted for Biden by double digits. He's probably going to lose anyway. Again, a lot can happen from now and then. But the 3rd Congressional District becomes bluer, D+10, as opposed to just D+4. So essentially, with the Hochelander, you potentially have only one Republican district on Long Island, maybe two, and that would require a lot of split ticket voting in the 1st Congressional District, which again is gerrymandered to encompass areas like Central Islip, Brentwood, that are very, very Democratic in this part of Suffolk County. So that would essentially destroy the Long Island Republicans in terms of congressional representation. Staten Island also gets drawn into a very blue district. That's because it now would encompass the area of Park Slope in Brooklyn, which is extremely liberal, which basically counteracts the Republican voting Staten Island in this district. So District 11 would flip. Then you have the upstate districts, which are a bit more up in the air, but in the current map, you have the 18th district, which is D+3, which actually went to the Democrats by just 1 point. And of course, you have the 17th Congressional District, which is D+7, which Republican Mike Lawler was actually able to overcome the last time around, winning by around a point or so. So, looking at the new maps, the 17th district essentially becomes safe Democratic, and it's drawn basically into parts of Bronx, Westchester County. The 18th Congressional District gets a little bit bluer as well. The 19th Congressional District gets D+4 as opposed to being R+1. And again, that's relative to the nation. These districts all voted for Biden, but it just calculates how much to the right or left they voted in terms of the national environment. Going upstate a bit more, the 22nd Congressional District, which is D+2 in the current congressional map, becomes D+13 and becomes unwinnable for the GOP. So essentially, all of these districts, all of the competitive districts are erased. The only remotely competitive districts we have in the Hochelander is the 19th and the 3rd, potentially the 1st in the right environment, but it makes things incredibly difficult for Republicans, and this alone would flip the House of Representatives under its current composition. Now that you have George Santos out, you've got a couple of vacancies there. And that's what Democrats are banking on, because nationwide, Republicans have had massive losses when it came to redistricting. If you want to talk about Texas, for instance, they didn't aggressively draw the maps here enough to favor their party to compensate for Democratic gerrymanders in Illinois, in New Jersey, so on and so forth. So the Democrats have been winning the redistricting battle around the country. And even though Republicans had some wins like Florida, they're going to be drawing North Carolina's map. Potentially Georgia's congressional map is going to be redrawn. They're still at a massive disadvantage nationwide as compared to where they were, say, in the 2010 and 2014 elections when they controlled redistricting and they heavily redistricted in favor of their own party. So going forward, the House of Representatives becomes incredibly difficult for the GOP to win. Of course, perhaps we'll talk about more of the specific races in the House as it gets closer. Again, I want to wait till all this redistricting stuff gets sorted out. I thought that was going to be done back in 2021, 2022, but a couple of states are still in the process of redrawing their congressional maps. Georgia, obviously, as I talked about, North Carolina. So we really can't have an accurate prediction in the House of Representatives until we know the partisanship of all these new districts. And of course, in New York, that's going to heavily favor the Democratic Party. So, this was in response to Democrats basically realizing that they weren't totally unstoppable in the state of New York. Now, they still won all of the statewide races, but the fact that Republicans got as close as they did was terrifying for a state that voted for Joe Biden by 23 points. And it has national Democrats frowning upon the New York State Party as they were so inept and incapable of being able to stop Republicans from taking back the House. Because had the Hochelander been a little less aggressive, it very well could have actually passed through the Court of Appeals and could have given Democrats the House anyway. But because the Democrats decided to bite off more than they could chew, even the Democratic-controlled State Court of Appeals said it violated the state's constitution. So, perhaps the Democrats will be a bit more savvy and draw a map that could potentially pass through the Court of Appeals. But I think with the Hochul appointment, it really doesn't matter if they put up the exact Hochulmander again. I think it would pass because of the ruling that we had last time being only 4-3 against. It's probably going to be 4-3 in favor. So anyway, that's it for today's video. Please leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As always, again, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.